Hey there, guys. I've got a great teaching lesson for you today. Today's topic is how to pay off all your credit card debt ASAP. Okay, so as soon as possible. And I've got a few examples that I'm going to demonstrate to you using Python, of course, to compare and contrast the advantages of paying off a credit card that has a higher balance on it versus a credit card that has a higher interest rate on it. Okay, is it better to pay off a credit card with a higher balance, or is it better to pay off a card with a higher interest rate? And how do we compare those two, right? How do we make an apples to apples comparison? Because you know what, it's not always obvious. Like sometimes it might be, but in most cases it's not. And there's all kinds of fees with different credit cards. And again, some things are obvious, some things are not. There could be hidden fees, there could be transparent fees. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So let's try to break it down and just examine what we're really dealing with. And when we really have clarity about how to define this problem, we can try to come up with a solution for this problem. Okay, so I just did a quick search here. How much did Bank of America make on credit card debt in 2024? Kind of a just random search. I mean, this could be any bank. It could be any year. I'm trying to use something kind of. It could be any bank. It could be Wells Fargo. Citibank, it doesn't matter, right? But the search was a little bit generic, but I just want to see just generally like what it comes up with. So as of Q3 2024, credit card debt was 1.7 trillion. That's a big number, guys. I'm not even gonna kid you. That is a big number. The national debt now is what, like 38 trillion or something? Let me Google this. Sorry, I don't want to go off TI debt. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but whenever I start thinking about something or talking about it, then I have to figure out what's actually going on here, because I need some peace of mind here for myself. Okay, so 36 trillion. This is kind of a cool site. This is just the first link I clicked here, but this is called usdebtclock.com, and it's got all kinds of pretty cool, interesting things here. So 36 trillion is the national debt. The big number. Credit card debt was what, 1.17 trillion? Okay, 1.7, so that's pretty big. Obviously, this is bigger. And there's all kinds of interesting things on this site over here. So you have U.S. population 34 million, U.S. workforce 161 million, debt per citizen up here in the northwest corner of this thing, 323,000 debt per taxpayer. So it's tons of information. It's a little bit overwhelming. I'm not going to go off on a tangent on this thing, but this is kind of cool. If you want to check this out, usdebtclock.org, and it's kind of neat. So let's get back on topic here. So 1.17 trillion, and this is 8.1% higher than the previous year. So these are big numbers. These are staggering numbers, right? The average household owes about 10,563 in credit card debt. That's a big number. Okay. And that's just an average. Some have way more, probably 50,000, maybe over 100,000 credit card debt, which is kind of crazy because credit card debt is not even tax deductible, right? If you have a home mortgage, you can deduct the interest on your tax returns. So that actually is good debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt, right? I'll try to get into that in just a little bit, but home mortgage debt could be considered good debt. If you buy a home and it appreciates in value over time, you can deduct the interest, and your home maybe doubles or even triples in value. We saw some cases of that during COVID, of course, and over a long time continuum, that's very possible, right? Your house could double or triple in value. So that's good debt, especially when you can write off the interest. Credit card debt is 100% always and without exception bad debt, okay? You have to pay that off at the end of the month. If you can't pay off the balance, the bank is going to charge you interest on the amount that you owe, right? And it could be any number from, if you have a real sweetheart rate, maybe 5-6%. I think I've even seen like 0% introductory offer for the first 6 months or year, something like that. But those are rare, very hard to find, and you have to have close to perfect credit or beyond perfect credit to even qualify for those. Most of the time, the interest rate on the credit cards can be much higher. Think 12-18%, over 20%, sometimes 30%. It gets crazy, right? So other debt in the U.S., here we have mortgage balances, 12.59 trillion. And what is this? Oh, loan balances in the U.S., probably small business loans, home equity line of credit, 387 billion. That's okay. I mean, it sounds like bigger number, certainly bigger than this 1.7 trillion. Um, I'm sorry, it's way smaller than trillion, right? It's a pretty big number. This is a scary number. This might not be too bad. You have a home equity line of credit. Again, if your house is appreciating in value and it's backed up by the collateral of the home value itself, that's a pretty decent loan for the bank and for the homeowner. These credit card loans or this credit card debt is just absolutely insidious. Okay, that means evil. Insidious is bad. You don't want to get involved in this. Okay, so I think I'll talk this up just another. Give me another 30 seconds. I don't want to talk about all kinds of stuff here, but Americans pay 120 billion in credit card interest fees each year. That is a big number, guys. 127 billion on 1.17 trillion in credit card debt. These are big numbers. So how can we fix this problem? Clearly, there's a problem in the United States today. I don't know about other countries. I don't know about countries in Europe or Asia or anything like that. I can only speak about the United States, but it's a big problem in the US, right? So there's some obvious benefits to paying off credit card debt. There's some significant advantages here. I have some notes. I can read through this. You save on interest payments, improve credit scores, less financial stress, increase financial flexibility, avoid the debt trap, better loan approval odds, right? If you're applying for a loan, you're going to have a better chance of getting a loan if you have good credit versus bad credit, improve savings potential, psychological satisfaction. That goes without saying, and avoid late fees and penalties. These are all common sense, guys. I don't even have to read it to you, right? Like if you have zero debt, um, very few problems, right? Maybe close to zero problems. You might have some other personal problems in your relationship or not, whatever. But if you have zero credit card debt, you're probably gonna have very few problems. If you have massive credit card debt, you have a lot of problems. Okay, so let's figure out how to solve this problem and just chip away at it one by one. So I set up some logic here. I'm going to take you through it in just a moment. I'm going to create a user input control here where we can capture input from the user, from yourself, from myself, whatever it is, because people can have any number of credit cards. I can't anticipate what that's going to be. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 2. You could have maybe 20, right? Some people have a lot. And by the way, if you have a whole bunch, you have that big accordion style thing that flips out of your wallet. That might look impressive. You can open it up and the thing cascades down and people say, wow, you have 20 credit cards. That's really cool. From a creditor perspective, that's a high risk profile, right? If you have 20 credit cards and each one has a $20,000 limit, that is $400,000 that you can access in credit in any given day, right? You can go out and go on a spending spree. If you have that credit attached to your name, creditors can look at that and say, wow, you can charge $400,000 in credit card fees any given point in time. I'm not going to make a loan to you. I'm not going to give you a home loan or an auto loan or a private, not private loan, like a small business loan or whatever. I'm not going to do that. You have $400,000 in liability waiting to blow up, right? So the more credit cards you have, probably the higher risk profile you are and the less likely you are to be approved for a loan, right? So all you probably need is 1 or 2, maybe 3. That's it. If you have more than 3, you really have to question some of the decisions you're making in your credit card lifestyle, I suppose. Sorry, trying to think of an elegant way to say that. So back to the basics here. Number of credit cards, we're going to grab that from the user and click a button to activate this. This is going to fire off the code. It's called, what is it called? A click event, right? If you click the button, an event occurs, and we're going to go ahead and collect some information from the user and make some predictions about how to pay off this loan, which loans should be paid off faster, the loan with the higher balance or the loan with the higher interest rate, and what impact is that going to have on the schedule of payments over time, right? So let's take a look. We collect some information. Here is all the inputs right here. I'm not going to take you through all the logic at this point. I will share all the code with you so you have access to all this. You can go through this code at your leisure, take your time, assimilate it, digest it, try to make sense of it, and regurgitate it, and change some of these inputs. This is an easy one, okay? Minimum 1 credit card, maximum 20. You can change this to 10, and you can say, okay, the maximum inputs I can collect is 10, things like that, right? So these should be pretty intuitive, pretty straightforward, and we're going to go ahead and run some debt calculations, okay, some rates calculations, and of course, the number of cards. This is a range of cards that comes from over here. So all of this number of cards. No, all this is interwoven and works pretty well together. It's tightly knit. Um, and let's go ahead and do an example and you'll see how it works. And again, I'm going to share all this code with you so you don't have to worry about number of debt widgets, rate widgets, things like this. It should be fairly intuitive. If you have questions, comments, you can put that in the comment section under the YouTube video. As always, I try to address those and handle any comments that pop up. I try to get to those whenever I have time. But some of this should be pretty intuitive, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. And if it isn't obvious, then spend a little time with this stuff. Try to get your mind around it and try to figure out what it's doing. If you totally get stuck, just ask a question in the comments section, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so here's the number of inputs. So if I put in 1, we have 1 credit card. If I put in 2, okay, we have 2. If I put in 10, we have 10 credit cards. Okay, so pretty obvious right here. So let me just pick 3. 3 is a good number to start with. We'll capture some information. It's not too overwhelming. It's not too much to grasp here. So let's say, and this, of course, just is hypothetical scenario based on your specific use case. So I'm trying to make this dynamic and relevant to you and capture all the potential details of each scenario here. Okay, so I have 2 credit cards. I'm going to put in 3. You could have 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. Put in the relevant number here. Generate inputs, right? You get 3 boxes right here. What is the debt that you have on credit card number 1? I'm going to say $1,000. I probably have a little bit more than that on one of my credit cards. None on the other one. I only have 2. I'm going to put in 1,000, 2,500. Okay, 2,500. And I'm going to say card 3 has, let me say, $800. Okay, and here's the interest rate. These are just scenarios. Of course, you can increase this and decrease that. I'm going to say 18% for this guy. And I'm going to say this has a very low sweetheart rate. Okay, 5%. They're out there. If you can find one, great. Grab it. By all means, if you can get a 0 interest rate or low interest rate credit card and put all your other cards on that and pay like 2-3%, by all means, you should do that, right? You can consolidate multiple cards onto one, pay a lower interest rate if that's possible. Sometimes credit cards don't allow that because right. But if you can find that, go for it. Consolidate multiple cards into one. If you can pay 2, 3, 4, 5%, it's going to save you a ton. But you have to dig around and search for those, right? They're not a dime a dozen. You can find those, but you have to do some work, right? So here's debt. I'm going to say $1,000 on card 1, $2,500 on card 2, and $8,000 on card 3. And this has a bigger interest rate on card 3. This has a very low interest rate, right? A little bit higher debt amount than this guy. This guy has the lowest debt, but a higher interest rate, okay? So let's go ahead and run the scenario here. So I'm saying higher interest rate first. Show me the highest interest rate first, and the cards will be in descending order. So, I'm sorry, something got reset here. Let me see. I did see a little weirdness before. I think maybe I clicked the wrong button, whatever. Oh, they clicked generate inputs. Okay, sorry, I might have clicked the wrong thing. I think this was 2,500 and this was 1,000. This was 8. I think that's what we had before I fat fingered the button over here. So highest interest rate, calculate payoff. So we are saying the highest interest rate is 18%. I want to see which cards we have to pay off. So in descending order, card 3, card 1, card 2. So this is 18, 15, okay, and card 2 has 5. So I'm going to pay this off because I want to pay off the highest interest rate first. The next highest is card 1. That's 15%. Card 2 is paid off last. So we pay this off in descending order, 3, 1, 2. This is the total interest payment for card 3, right? This has a high payment, high interest, and a high debt. So that one has to be paid off first. Card 1 is next because that's 15%, and then this guy is only 5%, so we'll deal with that later. And even though it has a higher balance than this, right, you have a lot smaller interest rate. So these two are actually pretty close, within a few dollars. And the total is the sum, right? So 1365 plus 22.8, 228 plus 238 is 1832. So if you optimize your strategy and pay this off in 27 months, everything is gone, and you pay only $1,832. If you make the minimum payments, it's going to be 51 months, and you pay $3,700. Okay, so these credit cards, I think the minimum required for most credit cards is about $25 per month. I think that is going rate. That might be slightly different for different cards. I think that's kind of the minimum. That's what I've noticed for the most part. So it might vary a little bit, but I think it's about 25. So that's the assumption here. So would you rather be out of the hole in 27 months or 51 months? Clearly, 27 months. This is the optimized strategy right here. And you're only paying $1,800 in interest instead of 3,700. So 18 times 2 is 36. You're paying more than double and paying like basically almost double the time to pay this off too. So clearly, if you pay this off in this order, um, then this will behoove you to do this, right? This is a no-brainer. So that's the highest interest rate first. So let's say this is interest 8% and you have a higher balance. You want to pay off the higher balance first, so you can recalculate this. And I think you have to actually retype these numbers. So I've seen a little weirdness to refresh the calculations. If you retype this 2500 and that is 8,000, 8000. Like it doesn't really clear out necessarily. I think it's kind of like a little glitch in the system, whatever. Calculate payoff, and we have higher balance first. So wait a second, is this even right? Let me see this again. 8,000, 800, 1,000. Let me do 2,000 over here and 2,500. Whoops. Highest. Oh, let me do that. Let me do that. Highest balance first. So this would be card 1, card 3, card 2. Let me run it. Card 1, 2. Let me do 2,000. Oops. I'm sorry. Fat fingered key. 1, 2, 3. Higher interest rate. Let me do this one more time. Higher balance. 1, 2, 3. And higher interest rate would be 1, 3, 2. 1 through 2. Higher balance. 2,000. That's 20,000. Let me do this. 18,000. 5,000. So this is going to be 1, 3, 2. 2, 3, 1. Why are we getting that? 200. Let me sorry. This has a little glitch in it. 5, 4,500, 4,500, 4,500. Oh, 213. Sorry, it's doing this weird thing. Generate inputs. Let me do this again. 18,000. And let's say this is 8,000. And then this is going to be 1,000. So higher balance. This is going to be 1 through 2. 1 through 2. Okay. So I think there's a little glitch in the system because this definitely works, but I've seen some weirdness. Like you have to refresh it or something. When you refresh this, let's say this is $100. This is 5,000. 5,000. This is 4,000. I would do 2, 3, 1 in this order, right? Higher balance first. 2, 3, 1. You get it. There's some little glitch in here, like it doesn't refresh behind the widgets. These are called widgets, right? Or this button is a widget and this button is a widget. So this is, let's say 5, 12, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 18. If you do higher interest rate first, this would be 3, 2, 1, like that. 3, 2, 1, and we get it. We get the right thing. But if you don't refresh these widgets, sometimes you don't get a refresh answer. So that's just a little gotcha. Just keep an eye out for that. I think there's just a glitch in the way these widgets work, and that's it. Just be aware of that and just deal with it, right? And use common sense, okay? If you're saying, give me the higher interest rate first, and you see this is the highest, this is the next highest, and that is the last highest, right? That's the lowest. So it's going to be 3, 2, 1. You see 3, 2, 1. Obviously, it's working. If you see some other order of numbers there, go ahead and refresh these boxes and do it that way. Now we have higher balance first. So I would expect 2, 3, 1. And we get 3, 2, 1. So let me redo this. 100, 5,000, 500, and then 4,000. We can do 400. Doesn't matter. 400 should be 2, 3, 1. And we get 2, 3, 1. So just be aware there's like some little glitchy thing going on with the widgets. That's fine. So the whole point is you have a couple different strategies. Higher balance to be paid first, or higher interest rate first makes a big difference. Here's the total payments for each one, and these are small, right? If you have like a bigger balance, obviously like the interest rate is going to be higher. If you make the minimum payment, it's always going to be higher, right? So here's the optimized strategy. Follow this strategy, use it for your specific case or your scenario, whatever it is. Put in the right numbers over here, and you'll get the correct results. If you want to play around with it, it's very flexible, very scalable. And here's a chart here to show you the payoff rate here. So you're accelerating your payments here. Card 2, has the optimized strategy and the minimum payments. And this is the payoff schedule here. Card 1, you're paying most of it to card 2, right? Because you're paying off card 2 first. So card 1 kind of goes level for a while, then drops down. But if you optimize it, it goes down like a step pattern here. And card 3 gets paid off last, right? So we go 2, here's card 2, here's card 1, here's card 3. Card 3 has the lowest priority, so it kind of goes down like a step pattern, a little bit like 1, but obviously, like the priority here is for card 2 because you chose higher balance first, right? So this is the highest balance. If you chose higher interest rate first, then everything gets reset over there. So that should be fun, interesting, and very useful too. I think these things are not straightforward. You can't just look at your credit card statements and say, "Oh yeah, obviously I have to pay this first because this has a higher balance," but a lower monthly interest rate, or this card has a higher monthly interest rate but a lower balance. Like, which one do I pay? I don't know. Now you know. Okay, there's no excuse. I just showed you, so it's pretty transparent. Put in your exact scenario over here, and you'll see exactly what to do to get out of that ASAP. That's the whole point here, right? So here's a quick summary of some common debt payoff methods. You have the avalanche method. The strategy is to focus on paying off the debt with the highest interest rate. Pay off the highest interest rate, second highest, third highest, fourth highest, so on and so forth. That is called the avalanche method. Snowball method, that's when you focus on paying off the smallest debt first, right? So if you have a card with $100, pay it off. It's not a big deal. It's $100. Get it out of the way. Then you can focus on the others. That's a snowball method. Weighted interest payoff method is a combination of a couple different things. You prioritize paying off debts based on a formula that combines both the interest rate and the balance, right? So this is a hybrid sort of method for these two. Avalanche is highest interest rate first, right? Snowball is the smallest debt first. The weighted interest is a combination of those, right? Debt consolidation is not really a payoff method, but more of a strategy where you combine multiple debts into one with a lower interest rate. I mentioned that before. If you find a sweetheart rate for a low interest rate credit card, and you can consolidate everything from multiple credit cards onto one and pay a lower rate, that's win-win-win. Obviously, that's the way you want to go. If you have that as an option, definitely embrace that. Debt settlement, it's not really a payoff. It's not really a debt payoff method, but you have debt consolidation or debt settlement. You can settle with a debt holder or debt owner. I forget what it's called. But maybe you can say, hey, listen, I owe 10,000. I'll give you 8,000 right now, and let's settle it. You might be able to negotiate something like that. And you have a proportional payments pro rata method that is used to allocate extra payments for each debt payments based on proportion to the balance of the total debt owed, right? So you could pay credit card 1, 2, 3, and then pay a little bit more in excess for each of those cards, or pay a little bit more for card 1 if that's a higher interest rate, or if you have the higher balance, a little bit more for card 1, right? So pay off all the minimums, and then you start working on card 1 or card 2 or card 3 based on what the model is telling you over here, okay? So I think that's enough description about that, okay? So I'm trying to keep the videos a little bit shorter and on point. This one so up to 23 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Try to keep it tight and crisp and relevant, right to the point. But we did talk about some very useful things. So use this to your benefit, okay? Profit from it, and you will have a more fulfilling, more rewarding life when your debt goes down to zero or close to zero, okay? I can promise you, okay? My debt is virtually zero right now, and I'm loving life. I know people have tons of debt, and they're not exactly loving life, right? It's very painful. It's very painful for them. So don't get into that situation, and if somehow you find yourself in that situation, use this model to bail yourself out, right? If you're in a hole, you have to go up. Don't go down. Go up, okay? So that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up here, and I will look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Okay? See you soon. Bye.